I'll take you through the software, and certainly do let me know as I'm going through this if you do have questions, because there's a lot to see in our system. I'm not going to go through all of it, and so let me know if there's something that you were hoping to see that we don't get to. But I want to start by taking you through just kind of a quick example of how Camino can be set up to create just a completely different experience for your applicants. We've talked a lot about making this process easy and accessible online, making it intuitive, having this one-stop shop. So I'm going to try to kind of touch on all of those different concepts here through this example. So, this is what you could set up with Camino. This is very similar to what a lot of our customers have right now, where, sort of a single portal they can go to when they want to start a project, whether that's building a new house or opening a business, kind of whatever it is. You can bake those all into one interface. So again, I'm not like trying to figure out which form to fill out. I can just, find the thing that relates to me, click right into it, and start doing my work. So if you ever use something like a TurboTax, to do your taxes, a very similar concept. We want to make this something that's approachable and takes, what can be a very intimidating process and make it a lot easier for somebody to dive into. So, you'll see that as I'm making selections here, it's kind of taking me down, into more detailed options. And everything that you see within the system, from these options here through, stuff I'll touch on in a little bit, everything's configurable. So, definitely as you're looking at this, don't think that this is like some, cookie cutter template that you have to fit your process around. We have templates. So, if you're using Camino and like the way we set something up elsewhere, you can obviously use that. But this is also very configurable to best fit how you do your work. So, I'm imagining I'm a homeowner. Maybe, I just bought a new house. It doesn't have a garage, and I'd like to add that garage. So cool. I went through this software. I found the exact thing that I want to do. So I'll go ahead and make that selection. And then this takes us into a part of our software that I think is really cool, really powerful. And this is our ability to interface with GIS data to do some process automation and even like policy automation. So think about all the different geographic factors that impact a project. You have zoning, you have the specific attributes of the parcel. And then, of course, you have other things like hazard zones. In California, obviously, fire hazard zones, big deal right now. Other areas, maybe it's floodplains, maybe it's historic preservation zones. All of these can, of course, have different requirements as somebody goes through the process, and those requirements might differ by the project. So with our system, we enable you to kind of build that in, or we can build it in, so that once I enter an address, and I'll just go ahead and plug something in here. Once I plug in an address and I confirm it, our system can behind the scenes automatically check those different factors. So we can confirm, is your zoning appropriate for this type of project? Is your, location going to have certain requirements that, may or may not change your process? From the address selection, the next step is going to be what we call the survey. I think the best way to think about this is, what are all the questions that you might ask somebody if they came into the counter to build this garage? And you might ask them, well, how big is it going to be? How tall is it? Where is it going to be in relation to the house? What are you building it out of? All of these things, again, they might impact whether you need a permit. They might impact what permits you need. They might impact, just what plan sets to submit. I mean, all these different things that are very important, but can be very hard to keep track of. Think about if somebody came in and wanted to do this project, that counter staff, there's a lot that they have to keep in their head to make sure that they are asking all the right things and checking all the right things. And this was something that, some of our early users were telling us that got us really excited about this technology. It's just, how do we drive more consistency in this process? How do we make sure that, person A, person B, no matter how they go through this and when they do it, they're being asked the same questions and then being given the same answers as a result. And I think just given the inherent complexity around, permitting, it's hard. It's hard to have a very consistent process, but that's something that a system like this can really help enable. So I'll go ahead and answer some of these questions Again, stuff that's really easy for somebody to approach. We're not, none of this is like super technical. Nice thing is all this progress is also being saved. So what we often will see is somebody starts going through this and then they run into a question, will the structure be visible from the front of the house? Well, I don't know. I actually haven't decided where my garage is going to be at. I guess I should go figure that out. Well, cool. Now the great thing is I can go pause, talk to my designer, talk to my spouse, whatever, make that decision, and then come back and resume this process whenever I'm ready. And the nice thing is that whole interaction didn't happen again, over a phone call or something, or at the counter where I took time off my day, only to be told, hey, I have to come back once I know this. So, the system's also kind of forcing me to do my homework, really figure everything out before I get to that point of applying, and I can do it at my own pace, right? So if this takes me 3 months to figure out, it's no problem. I just come back in when I'm ready, click yes, and I can move forward. So once I've finished, answering questions in the survey, providing a little bit of more information here, what our software is now going to do is take all of that information that's been provided. So, again, I've told it I'm building a garage. I've given it an address, and it did a bunch of automated checks behind the scenes. And I've also answered some questions. So now our software can take all of that and it can say, okay, based on what you've told me, here is exactly what your process will be. So I can click here to get started. And this is a customized generated list of my project requirements. So, if there's something on here, the nice thing is I know that this project is, this requirement is going to be specific to my project. And I know if something's not here, I don't have to worry about it. Right. So looking up here at the top of the list, there's some basic information that is going to be important for me to review, like what are my land survey requirements? Let's say there's a handout that you want to provide, and here's your foundation bracing information. And again, you're kind of pointing people out to all of these different resources, coming back to that one-stop shop concept, right? I come in here in Camino, and it points me out to everywhere I need to go. Review fire hazard zone requirements. This is a great example of something that's going to automatically get flagged by the GIS data, right? So if you're in a fire zone, this will tell you. And if there's specific things you have to do, you can build that process into the system. Setbacks. This is something else that comes up a lot. What are my setbacks going to be? Well, maybe it depends on the zone. So again, we can check that. We can tell you you're in a residential zone, and as a result, here are your setbacks. 20 feet, 5 feet, 15 feet, whatever that is. And even if I'm not a technical user, no problem. I can pass this on to my designer just so they have that resource. And of course, they'll know what to do with that. So that's, again, we call that sort of our guide, pre-information. And, you could put as much or as little in here as you want to help somebody out. And then once I've reviewed all that and I'm kind of ready to now move forward, well, then now we have an application checklist. So, this is basically a set of steps that I can work through that are going to be kind of the requirements for this project. So, let's say there's forms that need to get filled out. I can do that right here through Camino. All right. What's my name? What's my address? Who's my contractor? What's his license number? All of this basic information. You'll notice things like the project valuation. I already provided that, so that's auto filled in there. Fill this in. It's a new garage. Great. Go ahead and hit save. And as soon as I've completed that form, it'll be done, and you'll see on my checklist that step is now complete. So pretty cool. I've now tracked my progress here. I know that's done. I can move on to the next thing. All right. Next step is this form. It's just another way of collecting information. Some of our customers, they have these PDFs that they've created, and maybe it's like a state mandated format or something. And cool, load it into Camino. It'll digitize. You can have that form filled out right here in the system. You can do signatures, all that stuff. Again, just kind of keeping everything in one place. So that step's done. And then we move into a document submittal. So if you want to do electronic plan review, you can take those plan sets right here through Camino. If you want to, if there's attachments that are going to be required, whether it's, proof of insurance, things like that, you can have those be uploaded right here. But it's as simple as just grabbing a file from my computer, dragging it over, and letting it upload. And you'll see as soon as that uploads, automatically marks that step as done, and then takes me on to the next one. So I can go ahead and kind of fill these in. One other tool in here that's used a lot. I mean, honestly, we rolled this out and we weren't sure, like, hey, are people going to engage with this? But it is used constantly, is this chat feature. So let's say I'm working through this process and there's something here that I have a question about. Do my plans need to show, something? We'll go ahead and post that message, and that will send a note to the agency, kind of on this specific step in the process. So, and that can then start a back and forth communication thread. The agency can respond here. You can reply over email, so it doesn't all have to be done here through Camino. But the important thing is that the communication, that back and forth, is all captured here in the software. So it's not getting lost in email inboxes. It's not, happening over a phone call where nobody wrote it down and forgot it happened. Because again, something we hear a lot is, these conversations will happen with one person, and then the next person comes in to work on the project and they have no idea what was discussed. They have no idea why something was said or whether it was right. And you lose a lot of that history and context. So what we're seeing here is all of that's now happening through chat. And it just makes it so much easier for that next person coming in to get up to speed and kind of see everything that was discussed back and forth. So I'll go ahead and upload my final plan set here. And upon doing that, you will see that my application is now complete and it's prompting me to submit. So I'll go ahead and do that. And now my application's been sent in for review. So it's that simple. It's just work through the steps and I'm done. We can also do payments. I did mention this. So if you do want to do online payments, those can be calculated right here through Camino. And as part of this process, I can just hit pay, takes me to a portal where I can pay those fees when I'm ready. That's kind of the front end experience. Very easy to navigate. Now, some people look at this and they say, well, this is cool. I already have a permit system that does forms and does documents and fees and all of that. So I do want to emphasize that this does not have to be how you set up the Camino system. All of this guide functionality that you saw, if you want to just use that and you just want to provide a guide to somebody that helps them understand the permit process, but then, have them still apply through your permit system, that's totally fine. Many of our customers do that. So, I thought I'd just show a quick example of that. This is actually a live customer of ours. This is Charles County, Maryland. And I thought I'd show one of their examples here of maybe doing a new commercial project and just kind of show you how they have this set up. So let's say, I come through here and I want to do a new commercial building. So I'll put in an address. Very similar to what we saw with the other example. And this is going to go ahead and it's doing a bunch of GIS checks behind the scenes. So it's checking my zoning, right? So you remember back here with this example, once I put that address in, it does a bunch of these automatic zoning checks. So that'll happen for me here. And then once that's done, it'll take me to the survey. I'll go ahead and answer some questions about this commercial building. Will I have, grease? Will I sell alcohol? Will there be food? Let's go ahead and do some of these basic things. Yes, it's going to be a public sewer only. Submit my answers. And that will generate a guide for me. So I just wanted to show this example because it's sort of an alternative way of utilizing Camino. Again, if you already have an online application system that you're pretty happy with, right? And you'll see here, this actually is a little different now. This isn't interactive. There's no submit button. There's no forms or fees or anything that I'm filling out. It's really just information. It's telling me here are the permissible uses at your site. Here are the different environmental impacts. I'm in a habitat protection area. I'm in a special flood zone area. Here's the development services process and all the things I need to do. Here are my planning and zoning requirements. So it's taking, again, all of that content that's really important to have somebody understand and putting it into this one central place that's really easy to navigate. But then, once somebody has used this resource, you can just point them into your permit system and they can do the rest of their application from there. So like to touch on this because there's just many different ways you can utilize this, and regardless of what your current setup is, there is going to be a way that you can leverage this Camino guide technology. It could be just a guide like this, or again, it could take in all of your application information and also manage that piece for you. So hopefully that made sense. If there's any questions on that, again, feel free to post them, and I can talk through that a bit more. So with that, one other thing I just wanted to touch on quickly here, before we kind of wrap up and open up for more questions. I did just want to show what might happen after this application had been submitted. So I've come back here to the first example where I filled out my forms and my fees and everything and submitted that. And now I'm going to open up the back end of this system. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to that demo system that we were looking at there. Quickly, let me just find it here. There we go. So I'm going to pull up the back end of this system just to kind of show you what this can look like once an application comes in and how you could review it. So this is the submission page where all of those submissions get shown. You can see ones that have been approved, ones that are waiting review. You can filter this, search, all sorts of cool functionality around that. But I'm going to go ahead and just jump into this submission that I just created and kind of just show you from the back end what's going on here. So first off, we put all of the information right here front and center. So here's all the different information that I filled out as part of my application process. Here's all those different steps that were completed by the applicant, so you can review those. Here's the map view showing the project, all the documents, fees. So all of that's accessible here for you to review. But we make it very easy to manage the back and forth around the application process. And this is something that I think is really cool and about Camino, and I don't think is often super easy in other systems. So let's say I've reviewed this and there was something wrong with one of those steps that was completed. Well, what I can do as the reviewer is I can just request changes. I can click this button that says request changes. And I can say, hey, I need you to resubmit your plot plans and resubmit your engineering plans because there was an issue with them. And I can say, your plot plans, they're, missing your fence line, and your engineering plans, these are missing foundation, whatever that is, that needs to be fixed. You can put that note in. And then you can go ahead and send this back to the applicant. I mean, you can even add additional requirements. So let's say there was something else that I realized needed to be included as well. I could also go in and say, I also need you to submit, your, you need to get a well permit. So I can add that in as a requirement for them, and that also will get added to their application. So, once I hit this button, you'll see this is set to automatically notify the applicant via email. I click this button. That sends an email again to that applicant, letting them know, like, hey, you need to go complete these steps again and then resubmit it when you're ready. And so it manages that whole back and forth process really fluidly, and it helps keep everything in one place. Again, it's not done over email, things like that. And you'll notice over here on the left, even there's this running activity feed. So I can come back and quickly see, okay, when was this originally submitted? What messages were sent? When did I send this back to them? So if you're a manager, a building official, for example, you're coming back in later to see what's up with this project, you can see, okay, well, we sent this back to them to make changes, on September 9th. It took them 4 weeks to resubmit it. That's why this permit is a month late, compared to what we thought it would be. So it gives you that extra insight that I think can sometimes be hard to find otherwise. So I think in terms of the demo, that's about it in terms of, again, what I wanted to go through. There's obviously a lot more that we could touch on. We have virtual inspections integrated. We have reporting functionality, so if you want to generate map views and things like that in the software. And there's a lot of cool stuff here. And I absolutely, would love to set up time to show any of this to anybody if there's interest. Obviously you can reach out and set up a one-on-one demonstration. But hopefully that's helpful in just getting an overview of how the system works, how we're trying to create a different experience for everybody around this process. But the one final thing I did just want to touch on is the rule builder. I mentioned this earlier, but I think it's a really key part of the system. And again, it's just the fact that everything that you saw, whether it's the content, the logic, the fees, all of that can just be set up through this visual interface. So if you need to come in and make a change because there's a new building code or a process that evolved, great, jump into Camino, find the rule, edit it here, create a new rule. I mean, it's all right at your fingertips and very easy to see how the whole system is structured, again, without code, without being a technical person. Yeah, it's just something we're very proud of. So like to make sure to touch on that piece.